In the sleepy village of Blackthorn Hollow, nestled deep in the English countryside, there were few things more feared than the boggart. The creature had haunted the village for generations, a shape-shifting terror that thrived on fear and mischief. Unlike the boogeyman of children's tale, the boggart was not just a figment of imagination, it was all too real, and it was always watching. The villagers told stories of the boggarts in many forms. Sometimes it was a shadow in the corner of your eye, a whisper in the dark. At other times it took the shape of a dog, a cat, or even a person, an unsettling mimicry of those who once lived in the village, walking the streets in the dead of night. But the boggart was not kind. It did not walk in peace, it walked to sow chaos and fear, to haunt the living and cause them to suffer. No one had ever truly seen the boggart, not in its true form. It was said to be a creature made of shadows, of mist, something not entirely of this world, able to slip between the cracks of reality and disappeared when you tried to catch a glimpse. But everyone in Blackthorn Hollow had felt its pressure, heard its malice laughter, echoing through the trees, even the twisted shapes it left in the fog. It was nothing more than a story, really, until young Alice Harper arrived in the village. Alice, an orphan from the city, had been sent to live with her aunt and uncle in Blackthorn Hollow after her parents passed away in a tragic accident. At first, the village seemed idyllic, peaceful, with its cobbled streets and old stone cottages. "Don't go near the woods after dark, lass. Keep to the fire and the hearth," the old woman at the market warned one morning. Alice asked her aunt about the boggart, but the older woman only shook her head, her face pale. "It's just an old tale, dear, nothing more. You'll hear things in the night, but you mustn't listen," she said, her voice trembling. But her eyes were wary, and Alice knew something was wrong. Something was hidden beneath the surface of their lives in the village. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, casting long shadows over the village, Alice went for a walk to clear her mind. The quiet, damp air felt heavy, as though the very earth beneath her feet was holding its breath. The woods at the edge of the village seemed darker than usual, their twisted trees looming like silent sentinels. As Alice wandered deeper into the woods, the wind picked up, rustling the branches overhead. There was something unsettling about the silence. No birds chirped, no rustling of animals scurrying through the underbrush. The world seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, a sound broke the stillness, a low, rasping voice. "Alice, you finally came." The voice sounded like her own name, but it was wrong, distorted. "Alice, come here." She froze. Her heart raced. The voice sounded like her own, but it was wrong, distorted. It was a whisper carried on the wind, and yet it was unmistakably calling her. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling, though she knew no one else was in the woods. A figure appeared at the edge of her vision, darting just beyond the reach of her gaze, and then, as if teasing her, it vanished. "Alice, come here," the voice repeated. "I've been waiting for you." Alice's mind raced. She remembered the warnings, the whispers of the boggart. Her aunt's pale face flashed in her mind. She should leave. She should run. But instead, something compelled her to take a step forward. A strange pull in her chest, like an invisible thread tugging her closer to whatever was hiding in the darkness. The woods were no longer still. The branches seemed to groan and creak as if something was moving among them, something large and hungry. Another shape appeared, this time closer. It was a shadow, a tall figure with long limbs, its body flickering like smoke. Alice's breath caught in her throat. Her instincts screamed at her to turn and run, but the creature was too fast. Before she could move, it was standing right before her. It was tall, impossibly tall, and it had no face, only a hollow, empty space where its features should be. Its limbs were long and spindly, its body shifting like liquid, darkness, rippling and bending in impossible ways. It was the boggart, no doubt. the creature of legend. Do you know what I am, Alice? The boggart whispered, its voice like the wind, like 1,000 voices, all speaking at once. Alice opened her mouth, but no words came. She could feel the terror creeping into her veins, a cold, paralyzing fear that held her in her place. Her body trembled, and she knew that if she stayed, she would be lost forever, a prisoner of the boggart's dark magic. The creature leaned closer, its hollow eyes bearing into hers, and for a brief moment it took on the shape of someone she knew, her mother. But the face was wrong, distorted, twisted into a grotesque smile. Your fear is delicious, the boggart hissed, its mouth stretching impossibly wide. Come here, Alice, and you'll be mine forever. Just as the creature reached out for her, a loud crack echoed through the woods, a booming, deep sound like the earth itself had split open. Alice screamed, her body shaking violently, but before she could react, the boggart recoiled, its form flickering as though it was losing its grip on reality. Not today, child, a deep voice growled from the shadows. The air around Alice shifted, and the boggart hissed in frustration, its shape twisting and wrapping before it faded back into the shadows, disappearing like a wisp of smoke. Before her stood an old man, hunched and withered, with a long white beard and piercing eyes that seemed to see through the darkness. He had a staff carved with ancient symbols, and his presence was calming in the midst of the terror. Are you the one who chased it away? Alice asked, her voice trembling. The old man nodded. I am. The boggart feeds on fear, child, and it thrives on those who are weak in spirit. But fear not, for you are not alone. I am the keeper of these woods, and I protect those who wander too close to the darkness. Alice swallowed hard, her heart still racing. What do I do? How can I stop it? The old man's eyes darkened. But now, you know what it truly is, and that will be your strength. With that, the old man turned and began to walk into the forest, vanishing as quickly as he had come, leaving Alice alone in the woods, her heart still pounding, but no longer as afraid. From that day on, Alice never spoke of the boggart again, but every time she heard a whisper in the dark, she remembered the old man's words. The boggart thrives on fear, but it could not thrive forever, not if you stood your ground and refused to let it control you. And as the years passed, the village of Blackthorn Hollow grew quieter, the whispers of the boggart fading from memory, but on certain nights when the wind howls just right, you can hear a faint laugh in the distance, just a whisper, reminding you that the boggart is always waiting, watching, and that fear is the key to its power.